Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Hayseed night, where we have just met a new person, this little goat here, and she has come to the big city for, well, we actually don't know what for, and Illigrab has just found her. So yeah, let's see what happens. Illigrab sucked air in through every crevice in his bark, making his mustache wiggle along a pressed smile.
So, the Temple of Irib, right? I was just headed there myself. Oh, what a place! Always a fire to put out for the little brother, like right now. I mean, there will be one going on when we get there. It's a lot less concerning than it sounds.
Tu apne der jao. Jao will do.
Really? How very fitting for the occasion. Hey, you wouldn't happen to be looking for a job here in the city, Miss Temple. I hear a vacancy's just opened up.
With the ibex moving to occupy the space left by Adder, all the pieces but one had been set at last on Heirloom's board. It may be wise henceforth to return our attention to the man of the hour. Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting to get back to Adder's story so soon, but alright. To fully do so this time, however, we would have to submerge ourselves in all 5 of his senses, for all 6 of them would be important to remember. Taste. Sad, with a tongue drier than the ground above his head, and a stomach bereft of all food as usual, curiously enough by choice for once. Touch. Sadder, miserable as it were, missing the chance of an eternity of mental hedonism that he gave up a couple of hours ago, now limited only to the feeling of a cold seat under his tail and a noose still embracing his neck quite uncomfortably. Smell, worse yet, constantly clogged up by the persistent yet distant scent of something awful that he wished would just disappear, and a dozen foreign herbs and oils that he wasn't familiar with, burning along the walls to cover it up. Hearing. Worryingly bad, a cacophony of water running constantly in the background, creaking metal and light breathing, coupled with the occasional banging of something against a nearby wall. The sense itself, good enough. Sight, other than the usual disability he faced in his day-to-day, well, how do I put this? Through many a talk well into the night, Illigrab had done his best to help Adder understand that his experience as a stag in Agathor was a rather fortunate one, even though his own social standing within the Echine themselves was not the greatest. He understood in principle and in matter that his perspective in life was a very limited one, and he kept discovering the limits of his knowledge with every new friend he made. And they remained friends because he was sorry and he got better. It didn't matter how funny and obvious some concepts seemed miles and years before he met them. He knew that words and jokes hurt others, and he appreciated that his friends would chew him out if he ever forgot and said so and so. He was, however, quite wary of accidentally coming up with any so and so that could get him chewed in around this new, unfamiliar company of fluffy creatures with glowing eyes, spiky ears, and spiky teeth. A company that had so kindly seated the terrified stag at the helm of their empty marble table and surrounded him with nothing but rows of peculiarly moist, pearly white smiles. And though yes, he kind of wished he could travel back in time to 5 minutes ago when he was all nice and unconscious, hoping for swords and not teeth, it was that sixth sense I mentioned that made him take a hand to his burns and keep his butt glued to the seat, knowing it wasn't just his neck on the menu. Better start making friends fast. So yeah, I'm Adder.
I'm Addison, son of Garfather!
You don't need to scream, pup. I know who you are.
Oh, you do?
That's right. You are a very lucky deer. One of the few grazers to ever board my ship.
Alive, noted Adder's back brain almost immediately, but that wasn't the bit that truly captured his attention.
Hold on. This is a ship?
As it turned out, the dining table wasn't the only marble piece in the room. Both the matte ground and radiant slopes that curved into the ceiling seemed as if carved out of a pink-veined pearl, turned deep blue by the darkness and warm yellow by the candlelight. Though such a sight wouldn't have been out of place for the palaces inside Adder's imagination, the air inside was so biting that it seemed bleak night had come early. It might have been colder yet if it weren't for all the flames illuminating the room and the rugs. Fur rugs. Not fluffy blankets like those made out of bush feathers. Actual hides. Far too long to belong to any type of ruminant Adder was aware of. But little did that change their effect.
It ain't quite what I expected.
Yeah? It doesn't get much nicer than this, living in the sea. Though, I'd rather be moored just about anywhere else. I'll give you that.
The creature punctuated her complaint with a sharp huff, clearly more bothered by the odd underlying smell than Adder was. Moored, the buck repeated internally. He had no idea what that word meant, but he had a hunch that the vessel wasn't precisely moving. He planted his hooves firmly on the floor, trying to feel the ship rock, letting the beast's growls and the beating on the wall fade into the rhythm of the whispers of running water somewhere below him. Wherever they were, it didn't sound like the sea, and that was everything Adder needed to glimpse the faintest ray of hope.
Well, I don't want to make y'all feel like I don't appreciate the way y'all saved my behind back there, but I got a couple of friends waiting in line to kill me next, so I reckon I should get...
No way. You're really going to leave after all the lengths we've gone to into making you dinner?
There was a brief disconnect between Adder's stomach growling loudly at the mention of food and his brain's best attempts to spell out to him who the main dish would be. His so-called new boss turned towards one of the other creatures and growled something. Unlike Eina's abrupt sounds, hers had a complex and rhythmic quality and inflection to them that made them feel connected and purposeful. The crewmate soon came back, carrying a fruit bowl filled with radishes, Adder ventured. from the chunks of fresh turf roughly carved out of the land, with roots and decaying leaves sprouting out of their sides. As if to finish garnishing the dish, a maggot crawled out of the soil and onto the table, only to get politely pierced by the claws of a crew member and placed on top of the radish again.
I have to admit that we're not exactly well versed in deer diets, but I was told that you were rather fond of roots and tubers.
No, you got that right, ma'am. There ain't nothing in the world my Billy loves more than good old roots and tubers. Mm-hmm.
Good. Eat them.
Oh, I'm eating them all right. I'm eating them even if it's the last thing I do today.
You're still not eating them.
Well, of course not. It's poor manners to eat for the host.
Not where we hail from, pup. In fact, none of us are going to have a single bite until you're done.
Yeah, no, that's the part that worries me, actually.
The creature sitting right in front of Adder cocked her head to the side in confusion and then back to follow Adder's line of sight. The row of frothy mouths that waited behind her vanished into whistles and gargles.
Please excuse my crew's manners. We haven't had any fulfilling meal in a while, so they're a little on edge.
She turned to growl something again, prompting a general whine. A stronger exchange ensued, making the crew around her scutter away between mutters and huffs.
You have nothing to worry about while I'm around, of course. Perks of being the captain. I get to keep all the best bits for myself.
Well, it sure is reassuring to hear you got a taste for quality food here. That must be a real shredded venison, because I'm nothing but the scrappiest of scraps.
Only 2 people remained seated around the table, and one just decided to stand up from her chair.
So, are you going to eat your deer food now?
You know what? I think I'll pass. It ain't you. It's the noose, see? Won't let any food through at all. Saved from the paws of justice just to fall into the maws of starvation.
The tension in the room was so thick you could have sliced it with a knife and thrown it towards Adder's face to hopefully make him shut up. Because if one thing was clear by the proximity of the captain's snarl to his snout, it's that she wasn't going to let that happen on its own. The fanged creature yanked Adder towards her by the long end of his noose, intent on dredging every last sound out of him.
You're going to have to try a little harder to fool me, dear. How did you find the way to Heirloom? Who do you work for?
You, apparently. I asked for directions along the way. Is this some sort of trick question?
His makeshift leash couldn't stand a second tug. The edge of her claws cut right through the rope. Before Adder could even blink, he found himself pushed back into his seat, with the creature looming above him, poised to rip every last tendon from his bones.
I know rot when I smell it. I was told we had to make sure a yellow deer would get hanged, not a... What are you, some kind of jackal? Pitiful.
Even though any movement could have brought his death about faster, even though the proximity of those teeth should have curdled his blood and rendered him frozen on the spot.
I don't know where you learned to make your ruminant sounds, Jackal Cub, but they taught you completely wrong.
The sight instead felt so familiar.
I mean, you know, I learned my A's and my R's from my mom, Pa. But to be completely square with you, I don't think they ever really got half of what I said either. At least I can blame it on my accent when I'm an heirloom.
The creature's ears flicked forward. She glanced around as if wondering where his fear had gone, and then shrank further back yet, sheathing her teeth behind her lips.
Explain this monpa to me.
You know, it's when a deer and a doe love each other very much, and then, they have kids, like parrots do. I'm not sure how y'all,
The captain took a long look at Adder as he awkwardly bumped his fists together, peering at him from his blushed face to his jittery hooves, and then back up again. Her nose twitched. Not quite satisfied with the results of whatever it is she was doing, she curled her index finger into her thumb and then snapped it against Adder's horn.
ouch! Hey, that's not very nice!
With her free hand, she grabbed Adder's mouth and snapped it open, way past the point anyone's jaw should ever extend.
She could be friends with berbers. Sheesh.
Fleece my face. Flat teeth! You're an actual deer after all. You're just like half dead or something. Oh, you should have told me, you scallophead. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so funny. No wonder you weren't scared. I bet deep down you were all like, oh, this Echo Wolf doesn't even know how litter making works. Am I right? Right? Come on, Pop, you can laugh. It was great.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was, 'cause I totally know what any of those words mean.
Hey, you have to do the thing. Do the thing again.
Which thing would that be now?
The words. Do the funny thing to the words when you speak.
Oh, you mean my accent? It's the darnest thing, ain't it? Chantere's finest. I'd say it's a knee slapper, but if I slapped my knees with these flappers, I may just have to crawl the way back home.
Right? That's not what the other deer looked like. You're so thin I could snap those brittle arms of yours in two with a single bite. What a meager meal you'd be.
A thin trail of drool slid down one of the creature's sharp teeth onto Adder's shoulder. The deer's apple bobbed up and down his arid throat, praying that it wouldn't become the next focus of attention.
Couldn't agree more, ma'am. There's so little me left, it's a wonder I'm not see-through yet. I don't suppose anyone's told you about this funny little thing called mange.
Though the creature's expression remained unreadable as Adder listed the many reasons why he would not be, in fact, apt for consumption, it was clear that there was a shift of sorts in her general demeanor. She had loosened up somehow. A toothful half-grin decorated her face by the end of his spiel.
And that's why eating venison would lead to the end of your whole species, so please don't kill me.
You're such a weird little deer pup.
As a good thing?
Oh, yeah. I don't need to know many grazers to tell you're a strange one. You make me want to sink my fangs into your neck and bite you open just to know how deep the weirdness runs. But not in an eat you way. That'd be a waste. Do you get what I mean?
No, not at all. Can't say I do, ma'am.
No, I suppose you wouldn't. Maybe you'd be more than a pile of bones if you did. Hey! That sounds pretty great, doesn't it? Lucky you! I found you a name. From this day forward, and for all cycles to come, you shall be known as Bones.
Afraid I already got my own.
Bones.
Yep, that's me. Pile of bones. Nice to meet you.
Man, you're a howl. I can see why Aina wanted you to come so much.
Aina? She wanted me here? Hold up. Aina was the one who called you back there then, right? Where is she?
Don't worry, puppy. You'll be back with my sister before you know it. She's having a little break after our welcoming party. But We still wanted you and Dad in on the family dinner.
Sister? Dad? You mean...
You know, our father.
So that was Adder, moving right next to the wolf on the board. A change in management, a rejected turnip, and a planned family reunion. But the boy hadn't arrived at this place alone, of course. Yeah, where's Sepp? Unbeknownst to him, the intermittent beating noise that he kept hearing somewhere on the other side of the wall was what two long, crimped horns being rammed desperately against the smallest cracks in the marble. Oh. Okay. The smooth, pearl-like wall threatened to shatter a soul in a million pieces before its owner could cause any significant damage to the brig where she was being kept. Yeah, she's no adder. She can't go charging through walls.
No! No, it can't end like this! This is not how today was supposed to go! I can't get eaten now of all times! This is not... Get it together, Seb. You're starting to sound like Adder. I'm going to skin that sidling piece of rotten bracket's tail and wear it as a wig! So, you're trapped in some kind of cell with no way out. Big deal. This is basically your natural habitat. Worst case scenario, you burn this place to the ground, change your name, and go live amongst the goats where guilt can't find you. No, Sep, we talked about this. You can't just burn away all your problems. That only creates more of them. So, you agree we're doomed then? Gods, I don't know why I put up with you. You need help.
Seb slid down the wall until she fell on her butt, nurturing the terrible headache she had brought upon herself.
On that, we agree.
It wasn't easy, alas, but she finally gave up on her half-hearted attempts at splintering up her horns, and resigned herself to the fact that the only kind of help she would get was the self variety. The absolute worst. No one left to blame if that one failed. The only light source in the entire room was the faint glow that seeped in through the doorframe. The same crevice that carried adders squawking to her, and the other slew of worrying noises. As her eyes got used to the dimness, the half-light became bright enough to reveal that she was locked in some kind of a storage room, full of armor suits, metal crates, snail cages, a pile of oddly shaped amphorae, and a hammock and a mop. Yeah. Oh, minigame. What? Seb gawked at the tool. It looked like a mop of sorts. It was a mop, surely, even though it used some sort of tightly compacted fur instead of seaweed fibers like Agazorian mops. Seb had heard about mops. She had even seen servants use them in years where rain had been so extraordinarily bountiful that the argillaceous grounds of Heirloom essentially sweated all of the excess water that had leaked out of the lakes and rivers around the city. Seb observed the mop further. She didn't actually know what the purpose of a mop was, but in the brief period she thought about it, she came up with at least 10 new uses that history had never even considered until this moment.
Lick them up!
Okay.
What the? What? No! We're going to die. What's the problem?
What am I supposed to do here? Hung up rather... Oh, inspect the items, right? I see. Hung up rather precariously between two metal crates, tilted away from each other, a hammock occupied the right corner of the brig from the door. Seb didn't dare come any closer, noticing the weight making the fabric sag. Until her eyes got used enough to the darkness in the far end of the room to reveal that its occupant was some sort of extremely spiky cabbage, conspicuously wrapped in blankets. Look at the cabbage. Upon closer inspection, she realized at last that it was no cabbage.
Is that a golem?
Aina! Hi! As far as Seb could tell, a rare and much coveted golem was all tucked in the hammock in front of her. It had been turned face down and clearly vandalized, if the poorly dyed green hair and general state of its clothes were anything to go by. The one item that remained untouched was the suspiciously familiar piece of blue and white fabric covering its torso, only increasing Seb's worst paranoid tendencies.
No, it must be a coincidence. It's just wearing his scarf because, they must have used it to track Adder down somehow.
Seb didn't have the faintest clue of how either a golem or Adder's cape had ended up in some kind of beast-filled brig with her, but it wouldn't make much of a difference at this point. The inactive golem resting calmly next to her was surely the closest thing the universe would send to help. She just needed to find a way to turn it on again. Though Seb's life had been equal parts extravagant and sheltered, golems hadn't been exactly commonplace around her. She knew just enough to tell this one was extremely detailed and lifelike, compared to those she had been accompanying compared to those she had seen accompanying her brother. This particular example would surely fetch a ridiculous price, even by Seb's standards, in any of the auctions the golem fanatics so loved to attend. Seb couldn't stop herself from rolling her eyes back as she clearly pictured Tailid losing his mind over this one. But whatever, she wasn't here to be judgmental of others' interests, much less when they could be useful to her. Give it an order?
Golem, awaken self! Golem, arise? Oh, come on. Golem, up. Open your eyes. Heed my orders, Golem. Get us out of here. Your Yasif commands you. Please? So much for a pretty face.
Direct approach failed, back to the drawing board once more. Left with nothing else to lose except her mind, the gazelle kneeled down next to the automaton, taking inventory of the things she knew about them. If there was one subject Tailid had enjoyed discussing with his little sister in the few years they spent living together under the same roof, it was, no doubt, golems. They truly fascinated both the moneylender and the spoiled youngest back then, much to the dismay of the eldest sibling of the household, who just loved to use any chance to make fun of them for being brain boxes, really. The intricacies of the oddly detailed talks that had brought Tailid and Seb so close in their childhood were now lost to time and shifting interests, but the gazelle could still recall the key concepts that drove them.
If 100 weight of metal and marble can walk and run, it's only through the sheer will of their master. They require a direct emotional bond to function, and therefore a Sephi that can create it. A mere breeze of Hatsa must be channeled from master to golem, powering its every feature, breathing a semblance of life into it. Something anyone could do. It's such a simple alteration that even the clumsiest sorcerer could make it work. But that is only the case for unmarked golems, of course. No matter how many lifetimes pass, a golem will remain bound to the same current, lifelessly awaiting the orders of its absent master until their soul finds its way back into a body. Or more commonly, until a powerful enough Sephi can redirect its bond to create a new connection. Are you with me so far?
Seb nodded the golem's head. She was quite positive that she was part of this exclusive, powerful enough group, being the daughter of the sun, a small god and all. She just needed to find the mark and erase it. A simple enough plan. Or so it seemed until she removed enough of the golem's torn up clothes.
Oh dear. That's very, oops.
Seb carefully layered the clothes back on top of the not golem and then sat by its side, steepling her fingers over her knees as she pondered her next movement and her peculiar companion's features. She ran an inquisitive finger across Eina's pulse, under her lifeless lips, beneath her sharp jaw and her short snout.
Look at you. You're very clearly a golem. If you were not a golem, then you would just be a corpse.
Seb drew her index against the side of Eina's protruding fangs, leaving a long indent on her finger's carefully kept keratin cover.
And not the corpse of a deer, precisely.
If what the gazelle had in front of her was an automaton, as it seemed, and unmarked, as evidenced by the examination, all that remained would be finding its core. By convention, this would be the chest. The chest, covered by the oversized scarf she had no doubt belonged to Adder, local magnet of gods and monsters.
How about it then? Should we pretend you are just an oddly realistic golem that has nothing to do with him?
Foregoing an answer, Seb's eyes began glowing blue against the darkness of the room.
You'd better be, for his sake.
So you're saying you're Aina's sister?
That I am.
The patron's daughter?
I could be. Describe the patron.
Red, angry, Aina's father.
Oh, yeah. I am the daughter of the patron, too. I'm sure they'll join us soon enough. You can just ask them if you don't believe me.
Oh, no. It ain't like I don't believe you, ma'am. I simply didn't know.
You didn't know what?
Ekka's eyes narrowed into a line. Her neck and snout, on the other hand, seemed to telescope towards Adder.
You have heard the thunder, haven't you, Bones?
Before Adder could damn himself with another word, an orange blur flew into a door, across the room, and into the opposite wall, door included. The stunned wolf and deer needed a few more seconds to realize that was Seb on the ground now, looking like a cartwheel attempt gone very wrong. They all turned their heads to the source of the impact. A trail of smoke zigzagged in from the darkness beyond the newly remodeled threshold, filling the room with the acrid smell of burnt fur and blood. A purple-eyed shadow followed suit. The beasts gathered enthusiastically around the doorless brig, and the smith plodding out of it.
Well done, Dad! You managed to fix...
The wolf's joy was cut dead short when she finally noticed Eina's whole body stiffening up at the sight of the rest of the crew.
Oh no, not again!
Eina leapt towards the closest crewmate, biting and walloping whoever had the misfortune of standing in her range. She was a one-woman band, playing an impromptu concerto of barks and whines and all sorts of pained noises.
Sis, be nice! We got your deer back in one piece!
Being well acquainted with this kind of overstimulated Eina starting a brawl situation, but not with the basics of first aid, Adder carefully grabbed Seb's body and dragged it under the table.
Seb! Seb, darling! You alright?
That's not a golem, Sep. That wasn't a golem at all.
What happened?
Fantastic question. I seem to have made things worse.
The table cracked and quivered as Eina and the beasts exchanged blows, and somersaulted over it, threatening to crumble entirely over the ruminants' heads.
Dad! Tell her to quit it!
Adder followed the voice quizzically, wondering if perhaps Pertok had somehow wandered in while he was distracted. But no, there was no trace of the old man. Even Sep looked just as disoriented as he was, though she had a much better excuse.
Dad, I'm talking to you! Do something!
The captain's snarl peeked over the edge of the table, followed by an arm firmly clamped between Eina's fangs. Sep and Adder exchanged a panicked look. Let's go with Sep.
Knock it off, or I'll give you a good knocking on the head, you fratricidal nitty hammer!
Eina moved her eyes towards the red-haired gazelle that just dared scream at her. Then her face swiveled slowly towards Adder, who was in turn looking at the same woman in fear and awe. After just a fraction of a second, he started nodding at full speed.
Come on, Eina! Is that any way to treat your family?
Adder's only iris darted towards the gazelle, as if trying to push its way out of his eye. For her part, Seb puffed up her chest and gave Eina a stern look. Confused as she was, but not really sure she wanted to know what the hay was going on, Eina opened her jaw unexpectedly, obediently. Her teeth made the ugliest sound as they separated from her sister's arm, leaving a trail of blood and slobber behind her. Adder felt so queasy he barely managed to fight the need to fall on his butt at the sight. Sep audibly gulped, almost jumping out of her skin when the captain put a hand on her shoulder.
Thanks, Dad. I knew I could count on you.
Eka walked away nonchalantly, like such a gory scene hadn't just happened.
Yeah, that was mighty kind of you. Paw.
Don't try me, Adderson.
Oh, I get it. It can't be easy being a father.
It won't be for you if you don't shut your snout this instant and let me focus on my role.
I'd say you got it pretty spot on. Sheesh.
Aina moved her eyes towards her apprentice as she wiped her mouth with her arm. He mouthed a relieved, "Thank you, sorry, got no clue what's going on either." Aina took one last look at the room, at Sepp and Adder, and the creatures watching her every move. She seemed severely unimpressed with it all. Without another sound, she grabbed the door that she had sent flying, walked into the brig, and put the door back in its place, sending a very clear message to her audience. Both ruminants and beasts stayed at a standstill for quite some time before anyone felt safe enough to breathe and move as they usually would. But once they were over that scare, oh, there was nothing in Dakna that could stop the wolves from celebrating. They played music, clapped, laughed, and poured unknown drinks into large rusty metal cups that they extended to each other. It wasn't quite so easy to cheer, drink, and relax for the significantly less bite-proof deer and gazelle, however. Even so, Adder eventually helped Sepp up from under the table once it finally became obvious Aina wouldn't chase anyone else, legs quivering like they could collapse at any moment. Surely noticing their lack of cheering, Aina's sister slithered back to them, carrying a couple of extra mugs meant for her guests that they would have never dared refuse. Adder stuck his nose in his cup exploratorily, only to get his snout whacked away by Sepp.
That could have gone better, eh? Whoever said a wolf's bark is worse than their bite never met Aina.
No, Aina's a big old sweetheart. If she gives you little nibbles, it just means she likes you. That or her teeth hurt. Maybe she's just bored. Anyway, trust me, if she'd meant to bite you, you wouldn't have come out alive from that one.
Adder didn't understand the look Sepp was sending in his direction, but it certainly was a look.
That's very reassuring to hear she wasn't even trying to kill me then. I guess it runs in the family.
The tall beast raised her cup to take a long sip from her drink, giving Adder a good look at the arm that was still completely covered in blood.
Still, you may want to do something about that.
Eka looked up from her mug, finally sparing a quick gander towards the incredibly concerning injury.
Oh yeah, you're right. Someone should do something about this. Well, am I gonna have to lick it clean myself, you peck of sea mutts?
One of the beasts barked something rather meekly. Aina's sister angrily barked back. The barks derailed into a whole screaming contest once more that kept Sepp's eyes and ears looking suspiciously alert.
You getting any of what they're saying? Any clues why we're here?
I wish, but no. All I can gather is that they speak some sort of guttural, gargled drivel with minced bits of the Zoctet in it, like every other language I know. It's not like I'm trying to listen to their words, however.
Sepp raised her eyebrows at Adder as she tilted her head towards the back. Adder mouthed an "oh" as the idea took form in his mind. He squinted his eye dramatically towards the beasts, focusing all of his attention on their eyes.
Bark, bark. Woof, bark.
They were saying something about having you lick her.
Lick her wounds, right?
Sepp glanced quietly at the broken plates on the floor.
She did bring you dinner first.
You are all meant to be part of the dinner, in fact.
Both Adder and Sepp jumped in place. The tall beast seemed none the wiser to their horror.
Do you have any idea how long we've spent preparing for tonight's party, Dad? The great Aina has finally been returned to us after 30 cycles. Nobody could be missing in this reunion. Or at least, nobody that fit inside the ship. We'll eat and we'll dance and we'll sing under the stars until we lose our minds. I made sure to gather enough snails for the whole crew. It's gonna be a crazy night. We'll show you grazers what a partying beast looks like.
Eka grabbed Adder's hands and started whipping them up and down as she dragged him into some sort of improvised dance.
And then we'll take over the city and feast some more. They won't even know what ate them.
Adder lost grip and accidentally got sent flying against the brick wall. A shuffle in the adjoined room. A single purple eye peeked into the dining room after hearing the commotion and widened upon seeing Adder lying on the ground. The door swung open. Before Aina could rush to his side, however, her sister craned her enormous neck towards him and picked him up by the horns.
What's wrong? You're smelling a little scared there, pup. It wasn't the brawl, was it? Am I walking too quietly for you? I heard it makes deer nervous, so I brought some clickety boots I can wear while you're here if it helps.
The tall beast bumped her knuckles together and clicked her tongue, poorly imitating the sound of clopping hoofs. Needless to say, Adder remained frozen in shock.
Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the feast part. But don't worry, we don't plan on eating all the deer. We'll just eat the bad ones. I hear you have a surplus of those.
How will you know who is who?
Don't worry, Bones. We'll know.
The beast's toothy snout contorted into what surely seemed like a comforting smile to her. She grew tired of the effort soon enough.
How can I get it into the grazers' heads that they're safe and allowed to breathe around us, sis? I don't think our sense of humor is connecting.
Aina barely shifted her eyes towards her sister. Now that she'd realized the danger in leaving her apprentice alone, the smith had repositioned herself in the corner of the room, closely watching his every move, hackles raised and fists ready to meet whoever attempted to even sniff the air around her. Unbothered by Aina's attempts to look menacing, the tall wolf growled something softly, almost conciliatorily. All she got for her effort was a fierce snarl. Whatever it was she said, Aina wouldn't have it at all.
So you're still not down for tonight,
The beast's tail swept from side to side.
Bones, come here.
Yes?
I bet my sister is still mad at us because she doesn't understand why she wasn't allowed to fetch you when you were hanging by the neck.
Oh, that'd make two of us.
See, she wanted to jump into the crowd for you, with a lot of knives. Tried to bludgeon one of my poor littermates to death, she did, thinking they were a guard.
The beast pointed towards one of the canines who let out a whine as they rubbed the back of their bandaged head. Adder didn't need a translation for that one.
Would Aina killing everyone in the plaza and exposing our mission have made you happy?
No?
Right? She didn't need to do anything to begin with. You showed the wits of a fox and fended for yourself as long as you could. And when you couldn't fight alone anymore, dear fox, tell me, who saved you?
You did.
That's right. We did. Our pack.
The wolf pulled away from an increasingly terrified adder, standing to her full height in the middle of the room just to twirl around for Aina.
Look at these ear tufts, sis. Look at them. Hear this raspy, dreamy voice. Who else could have a bumpy snout like this, teeth so sharp, fur so fluffy? Who would dare call you sis over and over?
Aina's frown just turned deeper, she remained unimpressed.
Hey, Bones! Tell her who I am.
You want me to tell her who you are?
That's right. I want you to tell her all about this.
Well, what's the deal with this one, you ask?
You've never heard of the Herald of the Storm? The Scourge of Alar? The Fangs of Hector?
Tell her, guys! Tell her!
A deep, tense silence filled the room.
Oh, my crew don't actually speak a word of Sirnar, but thanks for the sentiment. It's Eka!
That Eka?
That Eka!
Which Eka?
Tesseka! The one and only! Two named! The one who will devour every shore! Oh, okay. Okay, no. We need to bring it down a notch. I don't have the lungs for this anymore.
The barks started sounding suspiciously like snickers.
You really have to quit eating raw snails, Captain.
Back off, whelp. Don't embarrass me in front of my family.
You know what would be embarrassing? Dropping dead from lungworms.
Not the time, whelp.
Is that really what they're saying? They seem kinda goofy, don't they?
Goofy? Goofy? Adder, have you heard any of the things she just said?
Course I heard, and I've seen them too. Who do you think had to wait in a room full of beasts all on his own while you got to hang out with Aina?
Aina kept turning her head between the pack of wolves barking nonsense and the two idiots glaring daggers at each other and mouthing words for no discernible reason.
I'm not going to die from eating a few snails.
I'm just saying, they're a little less scary than I thought they'd be, that's all.
So help me, Adderson.
Fine. I guess we can just find ourselves a new Eka when you...
Everyone in the room turned around to look at Aina, who, in turn, seemed just about ready to start another fight. Everyone except for Eka.
Yeah. I get it now.
With a long, tired sigh, the driving emotion behind which nobody could even start to decipher, Eka meandered all the way across the room towards her sister, and then kneeled down next to her. All the sea wolves followed her lead, kneeling down alongside her. Eka motioned them to rise up again.
It's not what you expected, is it? Not me, not the ship, not this whole thing. It never is. And the fact that you've been expecting it for so long probably only makes this stink all the more. You of all people would understand, right? The sea is always different. But it's the same sea after all.
Aina's eyebrows started to crease her forehead. Eka let out a short chuckle, realizing that whatever the metaphor was meant to imply, it wasn't really coming through.
I know we arrived earlier than you wanted us to. I'm sorry we had to drag you here like that. And I'm sorry that you didn't want to see us yet, but I was very excited to see you. You know that much, at least.
Though she hesitated to do so for a moment, Aina finally nodded.
You're very strong. You've been here with Dad for so many cycles now. Cycles that we've spent thinking of you, sharing what we've learned, making our home a better one. And if we braved the shifting seas, it's so your new friends can be free to have a better life as well.
All of a sudden, Eka pulled Aina into a deep hug.
I just want you to know that we're here, Aina. You're not alone anymore.
Aina stared emptily ahead for a few seconds before finally nodding into the crook of the fluffy neck embracing her. The wheels of her mind were spinning much faster than they usually did. Too many feelings clashing against each other, sparks of memories that she couldn't quite recall. But if there was one thing she remembered, it was that she had been so alone. Alone. Because she was alone, wasn't she? Her eyes moved quickly between Adder and her sister, as if asking for permission of some kind, to feel something that she wasn't supposed to feel. What she found in Adder's expression right that moment instead, it would haunt her for the rest of time. Right now, however, Eka wouldn't afford her the time to think about it.
I guess this must all be very confusing for the three of you. The short of it is that we've been hiding an heirloom for a couple of weeks now. All hush-hush, as it were. Like I said, if I wanted our reunion to be this huge party that would knock you off your feet, we'd have to make all sorts of preparations. Cue my surprise when we got word that not only did the bear men know we were here, he expected us to be fully equipped and ready to attack at a moment's notice. So we got orders to show up today, just to let your little deer helper cry and die and make you all miserable and sad, and I was having none of it. So I figure, hey, who's the boss? I'm the boss. I have the perfect big day present. So here's your pet and your debrief, sis. The deer's safe, the crew informed, and we only got seen by like 5 grazers. Mission success.
The whole crew howled in response, which was cut short by a tormented scream somewhere far above their hiding place.
I mean, mission success as long as the deer stays here. It's chaos up there. But don't worry, we'll fix that soon enough.
Adder and Sep shot a desperate look towards each other. They definitely had to do something about this whole fixing fiasco ipso facto.
So, about tonight. I mean, sure, you could attack the city today and all, but, well, oh, never mind. This would surely be talking out of place.
Yes, Pup? What is it?
Well, you see, all that ruckus up there is 'cause I'm real friggin' important. Yep. The guards are losing their minds over me missing.
Are they? Then why did they try to kill you?
'Cause I'm so important, as I said. I'm kinda, hero. Yep. A mighty one-eyed hero that helps everyone he can. A knight, as we call him here.
Sep hid her face in a hand, trying not to commit murder on the spot.
But there is glory in acting selflessly for the pack. I don't understand.
Ruminants ain't no pack. We're just bunches of folks getting kicked by the unfair lords that got more power than us. And the deer with power, they felt so threatened by my helping anyone, they put an order out to end my life. Steal my assets! Eat my food! Separate me from my poor beloved boss before you were boss! Oh, my sweet little Ada!
Adder pretended to cry as he shuffled his knees towards the smith. With the hand that wasn't covering his face, he made a come-hither motion so she would understand.
And now that you and me are both reunited at last, I just hate to see the family divided, to cause the whole mission to crumble to pieces, because everyone in the city's on the lookout for Adderson, son of Garfath of the Upper Field.
Aw, is that all? You have nothing to worry about then. We can handle a couple of deer with swords.
Adder tapped Eina's back increasingly fast.
Fine. I guess we can delay the raid a couple of days so you can hang out with your deer. It's not like we had official clearance to do anything yet anyway. But, to make up for it, you have to come partying with us tonight. Or I'm taking a spare rib from your special pet. Does that sound like a good trade?
Aina nodded her head at maximum speed as she ran to give Eka the most hand-crushing handshake Adder had ever seen in his life. Her hand looked positively tiny next to Eka's, who clearly struggled both to understand the gesture and to keep her paw wrapped around her sister's wrist. Tired of this pantomime, Eka simply pulled Aina into a rib-crushing hug, lifting her right off the ground. Aina didn't murder her on the spot, meaning she was kind of happy about it.
Hey, boss. Mind if I get a celebration hug, too?
Sure, Bones. Get in here.
No, my bad. I meant Aina. You know how it is, boss. Force of habit and all.
Oh. I suppose you want some privacy, as you say? I mean, sure, whatever. It's getting pretty early for us. We were thinking about heading off to bed anyway, weren't we?
No one needed a translation for the disheartened growls Eka got from her crew.
So yeah, you two get all the time alone you need in the brig, like your boo-boo's better and stuff. What say you and I catch up in the meantime, Dad?
I think we'll continue from here next time, and we'll see what Sepp is going to do in this situation. I mean, why is she being mistaken for their dad? Well, I guess we'll learn about it in the next episode. Anyway, I'm glad this all got at least sort of resolved, and nothing disastrous is happening, at least yet. So yeah, we'll leave it here for now and continue from here next time. Thank you so much for watching and spending a little of your time with me here today. It was lovely to have you. Please remember to be kind to yourself. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you again next time.